Have you sat alone long enough to hear the echoes of your silence? Those echoes that penetrate inside you, as if they were the echo of footsteps on an empty land in the middle of the night. Loneliness is not just a moment of absence of others. It is an encounter with yourself, a real confrontation with everything you are and what you are running away from. The strong are always alone because they know that true strength is not in numbers, friends, or conversations that last until the dawn hours. Strength is not in external support, but in internal steadfastness. The strong are alone because they know that people love the strong to depend on them, but they do not understand how much it takes for this strong person not to break under the weight of expectations, disappointment, and the long silence that fills the nights. Loneliness is not a curse, but it is not a blessing either. Loneliness is like an empty room in which you are forced to stay. At first you feel uncomfortable, but over time you begin to notice the details. Those small cracks in the wall, the dim light passing through the window, and maybe even the sound of the clock hands. Loneliness forces you to see what you've always been running away from. Maybe it makes you see clearly your sadness, your pent-up anger, and your aborted dreams. But let's admit it, loneliness is tough. It is not just a moment of rest or solitude to relax. It's the battle you're fighting against yourself. It's those nights when you hear the sounds of your thoughts clashing like an endless storm. Loneliness reveals your true self, and not all of us are ready for that. We live in a world full of masks, and each of us wears a mask appropriate to the place and time. But when you're alone, masks have no place. You become you, with all your weaknesses, strengths, mistakes, and successes. The strong are alone because they have learned to rely only on themselves. They learned that the world is not always a fair place, and that you can be left halfway, not because you are not important, but because everyone is busy carrying their own weight. But loneliness isn't always bad. In unity, you find wisdom. Find those questions that no one dares to ask out loud. Why am I here? What do I really want? Am I happy, or am I just a survivor in life? These questions may be more hurtful than any words you may hear from others, but it is necessary. The strong are alone because they faced these questions and did not run away, because they have learned to bear the burden of answers, even when they are painful. Maybe others see you as strong because you don't cry in front of them, because you put up with what they can't handle. But they don't see those moments when you sit alone, holding your head in your hands and wishing the world could stop for a minute. No one sees the tears that fall in the dark, and no one hears the silent screams that come out when you're alone. Strength is neither in muscles nor in loud screaming. Strength is your ability to stand still when everything around you is falling apart. It is your choice to continue the path, even if you are walking alone. Strength is in understanding that loneliness is not the end, but the beginning of something new. But let's be honest, being strong is always exhausting. Being the person everyone depends on means you rarely have someone to depend on. Being alone means that you are responsible for healing your wounds, consoling yourself, and rebuilding yourself every time you collapse. They are strong because they have learned to love themselves, not in a selfish way, but in a way that gives them the ability to face life. But loneliness also teaches you that people need each other, even the strong. True strength is not in refusing help, but in accepting it when you need it. Ultimately, life is not only a test of strength, but of understanding, compassion, and love. Yes, the strong are always alone, but they are also the ones who rebuild themselves after every collapse, who find wisdom in pain, who stand up to the storm even when no one is looking. Have you sat alone long enough to know who you are? Have you endured that loneliness enough to realize that you are stronger than you thought?